There's a reason why the three richest men in the world, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, are all heavily invested in media companies. You may have heard about how Bezos wants to put new limitations on the Washington Post opinion section to where they're no longer allowed to publish articles that don't support free markets and personal liberties. But listen to this quote from Bezos back in 2013 when he originally bought the Washington Post. "The values of the Post do not need changing. The paper's duty will remain to its readers and not to the private interests of its owners." Up to you whether or not you think he's still following that quote today, but even Bezos here is acknowledging a risk that comes with ownership in any media company. As a news outlet, you control information and how people receive it. In a way, you're creating people's reality. That's a lot of power, and an owner of a news outlet can easily use that power to influence people in a way that's beneficial to their other financial interests. And a guy like Bezos does have a lot of financial interests that benefit from his opinion section writing about the wonders of free markets. It's kind of like if my buddy, whose opinion I trust, recommends that we go to what he calls the best restaurant in town. And then when we show up, I find out that he just has a crush on the waitress. That's a conflict of interest. It's a silly example, but it's an important problem because the owners of media are incentivized to shape our reality in a way that benefits them. So what's the solution to this problem? Independent media for sure will limit those conflicts of interest, but I don't know if it's practical to expect people to get all their news from independent media since the scope and coverage of other outlets with more funding tends to be much wider. So at the very least, we should know going in what financial interests own the outlet that I'm reading from. Like I found out recently that the movie review site Rotten Tomatoes was owned by NBC Universal. I'm not saying that makes all their reviews biased, but it's context that I'd at least like to know going in. That's why I really like Ground News' ownership feature, because for every story, amongst other things, it shows you the owners of each news outlet, whether it's Jeff Bezos or owned independently. That necessary context allows you to judge the outlet's reporting for yourself. And with that feature, I always catch funny examples of conflicts of interest, like this story from the South China Morning Post about Alibaba deals. When you look at Ground News' ownership label, you quickly see that the South China Morning Post is of course owned by Alibaba. Look, I don't think this one feature is going to change the media overnight, but it's at least a step in the right direction towards transparency, which is something we here at Ground News care a lot about.